Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the back office. I have an item here from Bulgaria. The first time I've had an item from Bulgaria. And yeah, I'm not sure this is a teardown lab video or a regular one. I might put it in both lists because it's kind of technical. I'm going to go into something technical and it's kind of not me tearing something down right now. So I just wanted to show you, this is a lead effectively, and it's come with some CD of software, and it's basically an FTDI 232 USB serial converter. So it's a serial port, like a COM1 type serial port that you used to get on your old school PCs, but with a USB on the end. And in the box is the magic converter, and you see in, out and ready. They've sort of glammed it up, to be honest with you. There's not much in this, but the bit that's useful is they've soldered it onto a particular connector, and that particular connector goes into the computer box of a ECU, an electronic control unit. And I'll draw you a picture, and the electronic control unit in this case is one controlling an autogas system. So autogas, if you don't know, is basically an LPG or LPG butane mix gas that you can run vehicles on, automotive gas. And that's good because it's basically quite a clean fuel, which is great, but also at the time it's kind of about 55p to 60p a litre. So you can say, well, that's half the price of petrol, and it's litre for litre. It doesn't quite equate to petrol, but it's not bad. So why would you want an LPG system? Well, the reason is if you drive a gas guzzler, and unfortunately some of us do, and we have to for whatever reasons, but we have gas guzzlers, you really are crippled by the price of petrol. And petrol, you know, it's kind of not as dirty as diesel, but it's a dirty fuel, whereas LPG apparently burns much cleaner. So you can kind of argue that you're doing it for the environment. Great. But let's forget about the reasoning and the rights and wrongs of all these types of fuels, but let's just sort of go through the system. So the system incorporates a gas tank, and that can be, so let's say 100 litres for argument's sake. And the gas tank will have a fill nozzle. So this is where you fill it, and it goes, I'm going to draw it like a kind of a diode here. It's got a one-way valve, and I've just drawn it like a diode. Imagine it as an electrical circuit. The gas goes in, it can't come out, and it just fills this tank. So once the tank is full, I've drawn it with a little liquidy thing, because there is a liquid. I think the gas in the tank might be a liquid, or certainly have some of it liquid. And what happens is, this goes to something called a reducer. And these can all be bought separately, by the way, if you're ever thinking about this. You can sort of build your own system. And then the reducer goes to something called a manifold. You've got one or two of these, depending on the size of your car. I've got two. And the reducer also has an in and an out, and we'll go through why there's an in and out here later in a moment. So you've got your manifold. Inside your manifold are these things called injectors. And think of these as valves. So you'll have 4 valves. If you've got a 4-cylinder engine, you'll have 4 valves basically in your manifold. And then these will have 4 pipes coming off them. So that's your manifold. Then you'll have your intake manifold on your vehicle. So this is going to be the intake manifold, and this is going to be your engine. So normally you have petrol being pumped in via its own valves, actually, its own injectors, its own common rail fuel system, and that's your engine, and that's petrol. So what you do is you actually drill holes into the intake manifold, the inlet manifold on your engine, and you attach those tubes there. So now you've got an additional way of getting a secondary fuel into your engine. So your engine is effectively becoming a hybrid. You've made your vehicle a hybrid dual fuel vehicle, which is great, man. It's really good. So what you do, your engine will run on petrol normally all the time. And then you've got this system now ready, primed, but it's not quite there yet because it needs a couple more things. So what you do need is an ECU, electronic control unit, and that connects to all of your injectors, so that can open these valves at will and then actually allow fuel to get into your engine. And actually, just bear with me 2 seconds, I want to show you something. I found something on the shelf right at the back. It's missing its injector, but look, hey, this is actually a system I made, and I did use like a sort of booby board type system to control this. And this is a gosh, single point injection system for a Land Rover series vehicle, and I sort of created it. So you can see I've made the manifold very crudely, cut that out of 2 bits of steel, 2 bits of tube for the fuel injectors to go in. So this went underneath the carburettor, so you had the carburettor with its butterfly, but you didn't have any fuel going into the carburettor basically. But you had a Range Rover fuel pump and a little manifold. Made a little manifold for this, and it was fuel injection system basically for a Land Rover that used carburetors, and that worked really well. You've never heard a Land Rover running so sweetly. But yeah, in that case it needed an ECU, and that's like that. The ECU is the electronic control system that's going to control the system. And then the ECU has some other taps, so it's got like a wire that goes to the ignition system and some sort of crank, so it detects the position of the engine and the spark plugs and things like that. So it has to know, has to get its timing basically, so it knows when to open these valves to put fuel into your engine. So what happens here then? Your engine is running on petrol. You switch over to gas, so the engine. This system will actually stop the car's system here. It taps into those and stops the fuel injector for the petrol from operating, although the petrol pump circulates around back into the fuel tank all the time. And then it just says, no, I'm going to switch my gas in, and it just starts firing gas into the engine at the appropriate times, and it's sort of pulsing these valves in accordance to the engine timing. But what happens here is, because gas is being reduced basically in pressure, this is starting to chill. You know, like when you take a can of something and you spray it for ages, how the can gets really cold? That's what's happening here. So this inlet and outlet are actually going into the radiator system, you know, of your car, and taking heat. So it's keeping this warm so it doesn't freeze. And that's why you can't use gas systems in very cold temperature. You'll start with petrol, and then once it's warm you can switch to gas. And that's about it. So where does all this fit in? Well, this and its associated disk are the software for programming the ECU, for tuning it, because as you know, it's very difficult to tune modern engines anyway. They kind of pre-mapped in the ECU, and that's fine. The manufacturer spent millions or billions of dollars on that, or pounds. Let them deal with that. But when you've come along and dumped in your aftermarket ECU that can work on any vehicle, you'll need to sort of set it. I think the ECU that I've got, for example, has an auto adaptation system, and it's been ran for however many miles, and it's worked itself out. But that's not necessarily optimal. So all I want to do is to hook this up, and I'll program it and remap the engine to my own needs, the way I like to drive and the settings I like. So example, you can tell it to automatically switch to gas after certain parameters. At the moment it appears to just do it when the engine gets warm or after a certain time, but I might want to optimize that, because I might not want it to switch over until the engine's really warm, or I'm on the motorway, or I've achieved a certain speed, and all those sorts of things. So this is what you can do with that. Also, there's something really important. You've got your vehicle ECU, yeah, the VECU, and these are all connected to the CAN bus of the vehicle. So there is a CAN bus going away, and this ECU also interfaces to the CAN bus. Because of this, fuel system is going to cause some errors potentially in the engine management system, because it will see certain weird things going on that it didn't expect, like sort of pre-ignition or various things to do with the fuel mixture. You know, it's got the lambda sensor underneath will be seeing a gas reading that it doesn't expect, because now gas, this is much cleaner than petrol. It won't have a certain oxygen reading, will be different, stuff like that. So this ECU can actually suppress the error messages in this ECU. In fact, what it will do is delete them. It's actually set, I've seen it in the firmware, you'll see that on the disc. You can tell this ECU to hide any messages from this about the engine, so you don't get engine warning lights on your dashboard when you use this, which is fair enough. You don't want engine warning lights if they're lying to you, basically, and that's what this will do. But this actually does also log those genuine engine warning messages, so that you can come and check. So you need this lead so you can see, are there any engine warning messages here stored in your memory that you need to tell me about, that you're hiding from the dashboard? Because of course when you're running gas all the time, it doesn't mean your petrol system isn't, you know, wearing out. You'd still use the petrol system a little bit, and you want to be able to service that. But if you plug in your ODB computer into this ECU, it'll tell you there's nothing wrong with the engine, it's fine. But this one might have just erased an actual genuine error message here. So these leads are really quite useful, and for 20 quid I think they're worth buying. So I said this is from Janel J70, and this is just a professional LPG CNG. CNG is natural gas, by the way, so you can use LPG, which is like North Sea gas, I think, maybe. CNG, natural gas. And this is just the interface. And you can see what they do is they put different connectors on the end and they just sell this FTDI chip. And the FTDI chip really is this one. This is the FTDI 232R, and you can see it right there. And on this board I've actually got 3 LEDs, power, RX and TX, hooked up, and you can see that matches here with ready, which is probably power, out and in. So it's quite clever. They're making, to be honest with you, I don't think I would want to make sell this for 20 quid. I think that's kind of a reasonable amount of effort they've taken to sort of do that. But yeah, that's a nice little family business. So that's going to be really useful for me. I hope that's been, you know, kind of useful for you. I know it's a bit rambly, but yeah, I hope that's been useful to you to sort of see how LPG works. I can't really take any videos and stuff for you because it's kind of annoying for me to do it outside. And there's not much to see because it's all under the plastic hood of the engine covers and stuff. But it's a quite nice system, and if you're, you know, interested, just sort of do a little Google on it and you'll learn a lot more about it. And if you're driving a sort of gas guzzling 4x4, really, maybe you might want to consider it this time of petrol being at £1.20 a litre. Yeah. Please feel free to comment down below and ask me any questions on this. And as ever, thanks for watching, guys.